Sports Shuffle. It is August 22nd. I am Flying Ryan Gilchrist, along with,
And from Motormouth, Joel Verlin.
and we're here today. We're going to talk about wide receivers and tight ends. Going to talk about how nice it is when people drop out of leagues 3 days before the draft. Thanks for that, by the way. We have a
Yeah,
replacement. It's just a matter of time until they actually, sign in and take that spot. So,
but yeah, you want at least it wasn't like on the night of the draft.
yeah, at that point you auto draft. So, yeah, I've got a replacement. If they don't sign in soon, we'll find someone else to get it. So, yeah, be courteous. If you're gonna drop from league, let them know well in advance. Anyways, yeah, wide receivers and tight ends today. Still not a lot of injury news out there. Couple storylines from preseason football. I know we talked about Antonio Gibson last week in
Of course,
let's say not positive ways.
the main name I think that everybody is hyping this week has to be Joshua Palmer, 375 and 1 TD line. Now, yes, it's
It's the
against
preseason.
Cowboys, but
It's the preseason. Josh Palmer as a number 3 is going to be pretty good, but he's not going to overtake Mike Williams. He's not going to overtake Keenan Allen. So he is the number 3 option on that team. There's going to be a lot of hype. You're going to hear a lot of hype about a lot of people that don't matter right now. I think right now you're looking for injuries. You don't want to see injuries, and you're looking for hype on well-known players. There's news on well-experienced players. For example, we talked about Antonio Gibson last week. He played in the preseason game, returned the kickoff, and had 2 carries for 3 yards while Brian Robinson was the starter for that game. Now it is just the preseason, but that's not a good sign.
should you just have when it's the preseason just pretty much like the Rock? It doesn't matter. Like just have that like endless loop. Like
Yeah, you have to learn what's news and what's noise, because you'll hear, oh, this player's looking great, or this player's turning heads, and this player's got the best shape of their lives, and this player really looks like they're healthy after coming back from injury. You will hear that from every team on several players in the offseason. What you're
it's
looking for,
preseason.
yeah, what you're looking for is something like what we're talking about with Antonio Gibson. You're seeing practicing with the third string, seeing returning punts in the preseason, seeing that, hey, that role is in jeopardy. You're looking for also things like Kenyon Drake, expected to be released by the Raiders, which to me says Amir Abdullah, Rashad White, I believe. Is it White for the Raiders, or was that the Bucks one?
I think
I
that's
believe that's the Raiders.
here. I think. I think.
Let me double check. I don't want to sound stupid. Would help if you go to the wide receiver tab, or from the wide receiver pad to the running back one. But that says to me they're doing well. And Josh Jacobs, Zamir White, Rashad White was the Bucks. Zamir White. There's too many guys with colored last names in the NFL. It's just confusing. But it says they're doing very well, and Josh Jacobs has been very good so far in training camp. So you're seeing confidence in what they've had, confidence in some of the stuff they brought in, so much that they're like, "Hey, Kenyon Drake used to be a starter for the Dolphins, out of the roster now." So yeah, not again. We're very lucky this preseason. Not a lot of bad injury news. I think the biggest news right now is Matt Corral, the third string quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, out all season with a Liz Frank injury in his foot. That and the Tim Patrick ACL still reigns supreme as the highest injuries so far this year. One other news,
And how about this is a name for the starters? How about the Isaiah Likely?
Unlikely he's going to be the starter, because I believe that's the tight end for Baltimore, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. There happens to be a guy there at the tight end position who's pretty good, and I've got my Ravens jersey on today. I'd rather not say which name's on the back, but I bought it before he started punching women in elevators, so I don't want to buy another one, but I will if I might get a Dobbins if he pops this year. I don't know. We'll see. Or Andrews. I like Andrews. Yeah. I still want an Aaron Hernandez jersey. It's just not going to happen, though. I can't. That's too far. But another piece of news that came out today: Baker Mayfield will be the starter for Week 1 for the Carolina Panthers, to the shock of the entire world and nobody else.
Absolutely nobody, though. Yeah. No. Now, a piece of news that might be a little bit on the side of shocking would be a name that, just in case you think you haven't had enough of this name already in 2022, Tony Busby has come back once again, this time to represent the victim of alleged assault involving Alvin Kamara. And this case is completely different from the whole Deshaun Watson case because, unlike Deshaun Watson, unlike you had two grand juries not find him guilty of any kind of criminal mischief or where near do well. This is totally different between his AK. Yeah, he's actually had charges and everything filed against him, so it's not like a case of he's waiting for grand juries to say, yeah, no, he hasn't done anything. No, yeah, he's definitely done something.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara is going to go to trial. I don't know if it's going to be a civil suit. Of course, whenever you have an altercation in a Las Vegas nightclub, there are two sides and probably more than that involved in the kerfuffle that ensued. So, yeah. But again, Alvin Kamara doesn't look like they're going to have a suspension this year, so that's positive for the fantasy side of things, at least. But yeah, Tony Busby is
it's like
making money off the NFL players screwing up.
Yeah, he's sort of becoming the name that we definitely would want him to go away already for 2022.
Yeah,
like him again.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with the tight ends today. For the first time in a long time, I think most projections do not have Travis Kelce as the tight end one. Most of them have flipped to Mark Andrews. Now, we're going to talk about these through the sleeper ADP, and then we'll talk about some people we're excited about, some people we're not so excited about, and maybe give a bust or two depending on the position. This one, maybe not so much. So, the top 5 by sleeper ADP. Travis Kelce at 1 at 13.9. Mark Andrews 2 at pick 23.3. Kyle Pitts, second-year player for the Falcons, pick number 30.5 on ADP. George Kittle, number 4 at 36.5. And Darren Waller at 39.9. Any of those, those are all your high cost. You have to make that dedicated decision to go for this player early. It's going to change how you draft. Some people see it as a huge advantage. Some people see it as a huge liability because you're passing up on other good players at much more scarce positions or harder to produce from positions. So, do you expect to have any of these guys on rosters if they are at their ADP or they have to fall a little bit?
I think they would definitely have to fall a little bit.
Yeah, I've done a couple drafts so far. I did take Andrews right around pick. I think it was pick 24, and he's going 23.3. So I can't say I won't, but at the same time, I had Jonathan Taylor. I had a running back. I think I got Zeke in the 3rd. So I'm like, all right, I'm good on running back with these two. Got Mark Andrews. Then I went wide receiver heavy, but I don't love how those wide receiver options turned out.
When you're thinking about tight ends, all you have to do is remember 2021 and the very granted it was because of injury. But when you think about a very disappointing campaign of one TJ Hawkinson, who had such upside, but then off. He was so riddled with injuries that just absolutely decimated his fantasy value in the final weeks.
Yeah, injuries aside, these 5 should be the top 5 or so at the position. You might have one sneak up. Of course, George Kittle had some injuries in the last couple of years. Darren Waller had some injuries and is still dealing with some injuries in training camp. Kelce has been an absolute workhorse, but no Tyreek Hill. Is that going to affect him? Is that going to give him more opportunities like some people think? Or is it going to just shift coverage so he's now the number 1 threat? That's something we have to see, and we won't find out till the regular season. So for me, that takes Travis Kelce out of play until the 3rd round, which he should never fall to. Mark Andrews, I think, is the only one there I would go for, and that's, again, if I'm at the turn or just after it and I can really plan what that next pick is going to be. If I'm pick number 5 or 6 of the round in 10 or 12 or 16 team leagues and I've got a bunch of picks, I'm probably going to pass on all 5 of these just because there's options later that are okay, if not inspiring. Do you see any of those 5 busting, just outright being well below the value they're at
Um,
now?
the
Kelsey,
honestly,
Andrews, Pitts, Kittle, and Waller.
the
We're talking.
honestly, the one that I think that would be probably the most cause concern, probably just would be Kyle Pitts because you're going from Matt Ryan to Marcus Mariota. So you just the when you're looking at the change in quarterback behind for the Atlanta Falcons, and still just the young man is unbelievable, an unbelievable weapon for the Falcons, but still it's that change for the field marshal behind center that I think is key integral for that position.
Yeah, it's a clear downgrade to go from Matt Ryan to Marcus Mariota, but Mariota did have a couple good years with the tight end when he was a starter for Tennessee. So there's hope. Kyle Pitts was one of the best outside receiving options, period. I think it was the number 1 based on some advanced metrics receiving option on the outside last year, which says a lot because he is actually a tight end. So of those top 5, I don't see a true bust. I do think Pitts is the riskiest pick because he is not as proven as the other 4, and he definitely, without question, has the worst quarterback. And that's assuming, again, Trey Lance is good in San Francisco. I'm going to go on record now that says Marcus Mariota is the worst quarterback for those first 5. All right, so next 5, again, by sleeper ADP is Dalton Schultz of the Cowboys at pick 55.6. TJ Hawkinson, who we just were alluding to, 61.8. Dallas Goedert, 74.6 on the ADP. Zach Ertz of the Eagles did sign a 3-year extension, pick 84.6. Dawson Knox at pick 89.2. Thoughts out to Dawson Knox with the family tragedy over the last few days, by the way. Bills fans stepping up. As much as I don't like the Bills fans do step up when something happens, donating $16.88 to charity. His brother passed away. The brother's jersey number was 16, his is 88, so that's how that number came about. So kudos to the Bills fans, even though I don't like giving you credit for your antics, your generosity is there. Anyways, that's the next 5, and that is the end of the list of tight ends that are drafted before pick 100. This is where I think you get a lot of value. I don't know if Schultz and Hawkinson are quite low enough to be considered values, Joel. I don't know if you have an opinion on both of those two, but I think Goddard, Ertz, and Knox have enough upside and are 8th, 9th round picks, depending on your league size.
Yeah, definitely Goddard because of the question of the number of weapons in Philadelphia. And just because of Dalton Schultz, I think you just have to have some kind of question just because of all the criticism of Ezekiel Elliott, what's going on with that line, what's happening with the Cowboys, and just all of the hype that has happened and what's going to happen now. You had Amari Cooper changing towns, so with a change in weaponry, what will the Cowboys be able to field, and just how much will that affect the tight ends?
Yeah, Dalton Schultz was a steal last year. You could pick him up off the waivers early in the season. He paid off dividends. He was a top, let's see, I think he was a top 5 tight end when the season came to an end. Let's see if I know how to do this on my phone, but Sleeper is much less friendly on the computer than it is in the app. So last year he was tight end 3, Dalton Schultz. So you do have some upside there picking him late, but some of that was injuries with Kittle and Waller being hurt. I don't know. 5th, 6th round, that seems a little early for him. And to me, for TJ Hawkinson, he was hurt last year. I think they've been building that wide receiver core. They're going to lean on DeAndre Swift a little bit this year. So for me, Hawkinson's a little too pricey at the point he's going there.
And also, you had Cooper was in town and Gallup was healthy.
Yeah, that didn't help Schultz at all. Then the last 3, I think at least let me start with Knox. I think Knox is one of the best tight end values right now. You can get him at roughly pick 90. So 10-team league, that's the end of the 9th round, early 10th round. 12-team leagues, you're in that 8-9 window. He was fantastic last year. He did have some injuries at times, but he ended up being the tight end 7 or 8, but he had absolutely massive, massive weeks. Weeks 2 through 5, he averaged about 14 and a half, 15 points a game. Did have a couple injury games there, took a little bit to come back, and then he had a 14 and 18.2. And this is, tight end is not a popular position. He's on a fantastic offense that did lose Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders. I know Gabe Davis is going to be hyped up. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. But Dawson Knox will still have some room there.
When you are in an elite offense and you earn the trust of Josh Allen, that just speaks absolute volumes.
Yes, Josh Allen recently acquired in a dynasty league to pair with Justin Herbert. Super flex, so I can play them both. Anywho, Goddard and Ertz, both very interesting in their own rights. I think Ertz has some early season potential with the suspension of DeAndre Hopkins. Going to take some time for Hopkins to come back and get in the offense. So maybe you draft him, get him for 6-8 weeks, and then try and ship him off and maybe upgrade down the line. And Dallas Goedert, I think A.J. Brown hurts him. I really think the addition of A.J. Brown makes him one of the riskier picks here. There is the upside that maybe he becomes Justin Hurts' binky or Jalen Hurts' binky around the goal line, but I don't know. I kind of think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are going to be very good there.
Yeah, so when you're thinking of all the offensive snaps, who's going to get them?
Yeah. All right, so as we go past the top 10, those are the top 10 by ADP. We're not going to cover every tight end from here on out. So next one's Pat Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet, Albert Okwuegbunam for the Broncos. Those are all between pick 103 and 119. Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee, Irv Smith for the Vikings, Noah Fant, David Njoku. And I think that's about as far as you're going to go. Njoku is pick 170.7. These are the guys, if you punt tight end completely, I don't want to touch this, I'm going to take it at the very end. These are guys you're going to land with. Any of those really stand out to you?
Yeah, maybe Gesicki, but he turned out to be a bit of a disappointment last year.
Yeah, Gesicki had some breaking news over the weekend saying he was going to be less involved in the offense. That could be, conjecture and hype by a beat reporter, but who knows? Cole Kmet for the Browns. The Bears, I think it's pretty interesting just because a lot of times young quarterbacks without weapons.
He had a couple of interesting weeks last year that I think definitely made you stand up and take notice of him. And all of a sudden you're going, who is this Kmet dude?
Yeah, and remember, no Jimmy Graham. That's going to be even more open. No Allen Robinson. It's going to leave some passing targets available to him.
He had at least, I think, 2 or 3 weeks you were just kind of going like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah, last year he was in PPR, the number 21 tight end. The year before that, it was tight end 43. So that's a pretty good rise. And I think there's just nothing else there. I mean, you look at the wide receiver core for the Bears, you have Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle, Equanimous, St. Brown, N'Keal Harry, Dante Pettis. Like, none of these names really strike fear. The ball's got to go somewhere. They're going to have to pass it. Cole Kmet gets interesting. And Pat Freiermuth, who would have been, I think, drafted a lot higher had it not been for Kyle Pitts last year. Also a rookie. Did very well for the Steelers. But Kyle Pitts was just Kyle Pitts, which I think devalued him a little bit. He was the tight end 13 in PPR last year. He's being drafted as right now the tight end 11. So I think there's some upside. I think Trubisky's going to start the season. I think he's going to hold that job for a while. Trubisky, remember when Jimmy Graham had his moments in Chicago? That was when Mitch Trubisky was playing. So keep that in mind. If you don't think Mitch Trubisky's going to start very long, maybe not. But we don't know what Kenny Pickett's going to be yet. All right. Any of those? We just talked sleepers on that one. So you went Gesicki. I went with Kmet. Let's talk bust. Let's talk about the negative. Of the names we talked about, is it Kyle Pitts or do you have someone else that you think is going to be a more likely bust candidate?
I've got to stick with what I was saying before, just primarily because of the change in quarterback. I think I've got to stick with Pitts.
Yeah, Pitts is he's got the most risk. If he busts, I think Kelsey's safe. I think Andrews are safe, barring injury. This is when we say bust, we're not saying they might get hurt. No, maybe when we get to running backs, that'll come into play. Kidder, Waller, if they get hurt, but they're going a little bit later. I think Pitts does have some downside. I'm going to go back to Dallas Goedert. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be able to spread that ball around. He's going to use Kenneth Gainwell. He's going to use Miles Sanders in the passing game. I just don't think that tight end position is going to be as valuable as it might have been in the past. One name to keep in mind is Evan Ingram with the Jaguars. He was good at one point, and Doug Peterson, now the head coach for the Jaguars, is the person who made Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert highly, highly relevant in the offense in the past. Absolutely free off the board. Keep that in mind. Maybe week 1, week 2, he has a big game. You go, oh, let me go snag him, especially if you have like an IR spot and someone gets hurt. Just keep that in mind. All right. So let's go to the wide receiver position. A lot more to talk about here. Okay, quickly down the ADPs. Cooper Kupp, 5.7. Justin Jefferson, 6.9. Jamar Chase, 9. Devontae Adams, 11.3. Stephon Diggs, 12.6. That's your top 5. I don't think there's a doubt in my mind. All of these are going to be solid players if they stay healthy. Which one of these 5 has the most question marks to you?
Definitely, I would say Devontae Adams, just because of the change.
Yeah, that's the change to Derek Carr, but they did play in college and they worked well together then. I'm actually going to say Cooper Kupp, not because I think Cooper Kupp's going to struggle, but I do think the addition of Allen Robinson is going to limit how much he gets open or how many of the balls go his way. I do think Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson being healthy will come into play. They're going to want to run that ball a little bit more. And last but not least, he's going pick 5.7. He had the greatest wide receiver season of all time last year. There's only one way to go from there, and it's not up, most likely. I think he's going to be very good. I think he's going to be overvalued right now. As of right now, Sleeper actually doesn't even have him as the highest projected wide receiver. That is currently Justin Jefferson for the Vikings. Cooper Kupp also a little bit older. When's that going to start to slow him down? He does have that knee injury in the past. So I don't think there's a single bad option of those 5. Keep that in mind. When we're saying Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams, I think we're saying relative to their ADP might be just a touch below that. If you got Cooper Kupp at 5 and he finishes wide receiver 5, he finishes behind those other 4, you're going to be somewhat disappointed. If you draft Devontae Adams wide receiver 4, he finishes wide receiver 9, you're going to be somewhat disappointed. If you don't believe me, Stephon Diggs was going wide receiver 2 or 3 last year, maybe 4. Finished wide receiver 7 when it was all said and done, but never had a big week and was disappointing to a lot of people. So that's the caveat on that statement we just had. Next 5. This is where I think we're going to have some interesting conversation. CeeDee Lamb, pick number 16. Tyreek Hill, 18.5, going to Miami. Deebo Samuel, 20.3. Mike Evans, 26.5. And A.J. Brown going to the Eagles, 27.6. I have my viewpoint very strongly on one of these 5 players, but let's see. Is there anybody there you don't like or anybody there you say, if I can get them here, I need to take them every time?
Well, being a Bucs homer, I would definitely scoop up Evans at the first possible opportunity just because of my fan allegiance. But going outside of that, I don't know. I think I might have to think Lamb.
Yeah, as the person you want to take or the one you want to avoid?
Person I would want to take.
Okay. Now, before we go on to another topic, you said your homerism for Mike Evans. Let's play a quick little guessing game. Mike Evans came into the league in 2014. He has now played 8 full seasons. He's missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total games in that time. So he's averaged most of his games. He's missed about 1 a season. What do you think, without looking, is his lowest PPR finish? Wide receiver number what is his lowest in those 8 years?
Wide receiver in like terms of numbers or position?
Where he ranked amongst receivers in that season. What do you think is his lowest statistical fantasy output wide receiver? Like, I'll give you a hint. Last year was wide receiver 9 for productivity. That's what I mean. So what was his lowest in those 8 years?
I'm going to go 8.
His lowest, well, he's going to be worse than 9 because 9 was last year. His lowest finish was wide receiver 22.
Yikes.
That was in 2015 when he had 3 touchdowns. He finished wide receiver 17 in 2017, where he had 5 touchdowns. He's been 8 touchdowns or more every other year. He has been insanely consistent. He is that guy nobody wants to draft, but they're always happy with the output. I don't understand why. But yeah, his lowest point total on the season, 202.1. Maybe not a wide receiver 1 to everybody, but he is going to finish on a low-end wide receiver 1 scale. He will. Now, as we talk, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb. This is actually the player I want to avoid. My reasoning for that is he's had 2 years. He's been 19 and 22 overall, but he really just hasn't popped. He's had a couple flash games, but if you look at his consistency, last year he started 23.4, 17.4, 9, 3, then 18, 36, 17, then 4, then a 28, then a 4. And then the end of the season when you needed him most, playoff week or just before the playoffs, 14.6 against Washington. First week of the playoffs against the Giants, 11. Washington again, 10.4. Arizona, 8.1. If you play into week 18, 6.5. They're figuring him out, I think. So for me, of those 5, CeeDee Lamb, I think the proof of concept on him, hey, this can be a wide receiver 1. He hasn't done it yet. Again, wide receiver 19 in a 10-team league is barely a wide receiver 2. 12-team league, he's about a mid-range wide receiver 2. He's going number 6 off the board. He's going ahead of Tyreek Hill, who has been a top 10 wide receiver his entire career, I believe.
So you don't think
other than the year he got hurt in his rookie year, he's been a top 8 receiver every year. Now going to Tua, who knows? I think he's going to be fine. And then Deebo Samuel was top 3 last year.
So you would not consider him a good risk if you were to take him as one of your first or even a second round?
CeeDee Lamb? I just think if I'm going to go wide receiver early, I'd rather go, if I have the option of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, I'd rather go there and then dive back into the running back pool. And if I'm going to take a wide receiver in this section of the draft, 16 to 26, I think I'd rather have Tyreek and risk that huge, massive upside, because Tua might not be able to throw it 60 yards downfield the way Pat Mahomes can, but they can both hit him on a 10-yard slant and watch him run. That's where I think Tyreek Hill's value is on the ground after the catch. I think he's going to have a better season than Lamb. I think Deebo Samuel coming back with that role is going to be great. Mike Evans, A.J. Brown's maybe the only one I don't love of this next group of people, just because Jalen Hurts, not really a passer.
Well, speaking of the next group, that name Tyreek Hill definitely ties in to one Jalen Waddle, and how much does that affect his touches and his targets?
Well, Jalen Waddle is in the next group of 6, so let's go over those ADPs, and then we'll come back to the question. Keenan Allen, 28.9, T. Higgins, 33, T. Higgins of the Bengals. Terry McLaurin, 38.6, Michael Pittman, 39.3, Deontay Johnson, 41.9, and then Jalen Waddle, 44.2, and we'll go one more. DJ Moore, pick 45.4. So of those 7, Jalen Waddle, I think if it wasn't for Tyreek Hill, I think he'd be going around where Tyreek Hill's going, or maybe early 3rd. I really think Tyreek Hill might open this offense up. They do have a lot of speed. Chase Edmonds, who we'll talk about tomorrow on the running back show. Chase Edmonds is going to cause some problems out of the backfield, catching the ball and running the ball. Tyreek Hill can just open up the offense. Mike Gesicki is a big target. Even if he's used less, he's still there. I think Jalen Waddle might be one of those sneaky, could have a lot of upside. He's not someone I'm picking a lot of, because I do like some of these other options in the same range. And I try and avoid the homer picks. I really do, because you can overvalue your own players very easily and get yourself in a bad situation.
And speaking of a pick that I probably would be avoiding just because of my personal experience, are you also avoiding DJ Moore, or less, as I like to call him?
Yeah, DJ. I heard what his name was, and I couldn't remember. I can't remember what it is. It's something really weird. DJ Moore just scares me because he is linked to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's never really supported a great top of the line running back or a wide receiver, and I just don't think I don't think this is going to be the time it happens. DJ Moore, I think, is going to go about where he's going to finish, somewhere in that wide receiver 15, 16 range. So it's not a bad value to take him, but it's not someone I'm going to go after. There's actually a lot of people in this last 6 I'm not going after because Keenan Allen is going to be fine. I think if you take him, you're going to be pretty happy. T. Higgins, wide receiver 12 off the board. You have to remember Jamar Chase is there. Joe Mixon's going to have to get his touches. And oh, by the way, Tyler Boyd is still on the team. He might be the third option, but he's a damn good third option. Terry McLaurin has Carson Wentz. Need I say a whole lot more about that one? Michael Pittman, Matt Ryan with the quarterback. I think that's a big upgrade because he had Carson Wentz. So enough said on that argument as well. He's going to be a lot better. And then Deontay Johnson with Mitch Trubisky. So there's a lot of question marks in this range, I think. This might be I know it's called the running back dead zone once you get to like rounds 4, 5, and 6, but this might be a decent time for some value at running back if you go wide receiver early. Because I don't like a lot of these options in that mid-40s range.
And coming up next, one of the names that I actually sort of put on my fold list, that would be one Chris Godwin.
Yeah, Chris Godwin. Let's go through some more ADPs real quick. DK Metcalf, 47. Jerry Jeudy, 49. Cortland Sutton, 51.6. Mike Williams, 52.8. Amari Cooper, 58. Allen Robinson, 59.2. Marquise Brown, 60.5. Chris Godwin, 62. Brandon Cook, 63.1. And Michael Thomas, 63.3.
Is Marquise Brown, is
Hollywood.
Brown, is that with or without the traffic tickets?
Well, traffic tickets came with handcuffs. So as long as he doesn't have the handcuffs on, I think we'll be fine. So, yeah, Chris Godwin coming back from the injury. It takes about a year. I think Chris Godwin's off my board. I think he's going to be decent at the end of the year, but I feel like people are going to be disappointed. You can get at a discount later in the season and maybe get lucky and he shines when you need him most. But that injury scares me, frankly.
So I'm not the only one with the caution that even though you had all of the unbelievable year that he had last year, but then you're seeing the injury and you're going, I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, late ACL injuries don't tend to go well. Of this group, I think there's a lot of very high upside guys and a lot of guys I just don't want for one reason or another. DK Metcalf for me, Geno Smith. Sorry, man. It's not DK Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf, but this year you have fun with Geno and Drew Lock, and maybe you get a quarterback next year. We'll be back on your train.
You would want Mike Evans over Chris Godwin when it comes to the Tampa receivers.
Even if you're going based on ADP, I'd rather spend that early 3rd round pick on Mike Evans as opposed to a mid-6th, early 6th type of pick on someone coming off of such a bad injury. Let's talk Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton real quick. They're on the same roster. They are going about 2 picks apart, 49.4 and 51.6. Of those two, do you have a preference, or is it one of those I don't know? One you want to avoid?
I don't know. For some reason, I'm kind of a little more cautious about Jerry Jeudy, I think, than wanting to pick Cortland Sutton, who's probably wanting to come back and prove himself. I think more than Jeudy.
Yeah, I think I'd rather take Sutton as well, which is interesting that we both agree, but he is the lower of the two. I think Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, and Allen Robinson in this range, and even Marquise Brown. I think I'm going to take one of those 4 receivers in pretty much every draft. That seems to be a lot of value to me. In this group, the only one that's really, truly off my board is Amari Cooper, and that's purely because it's going to be Jacoby Brissett as of right now. Amari Cooper's been traded around in a dynasty league 2 or 3 different times. I just don't see it coming through for this season. I think he's a good prospect. I think if you can grab him in dynasty, stash him for a year, use him when you have to.
Browns make a surprise trade for somebody, which we're not sure that that's going to happen.
Even if they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, who seems to be the only one out there, Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to activate a receiver like Amari Cooper. He was able to get Deebo Samuel going because Deebo Samuel's a lot like Tyreek Hill. Give him the ball, let him run. He's going to make something happen. That's the kind of receiver that's going to do well with Jimmy G. I don't think there's another option out there. It's going to be Brissett. It's going to be painful. Maybe you get him again. Maybe you get him week 11 on a cheap trade right before the trade deadline, save him for when Deshaun Watson comes back, and hope Deshaun Watson's what he was before, and hope Amari Cooper and him have a good connection.
Brissett will be somebody's quarterback.
Somebody. Michael Thomas dealing with a hamstring injury, but not the ankle. He's been getting pretty good praises so far this offseason. All right, last group we're really going to highlight based on ADP, and then we'll talk about a couple sleepers by, who we want. Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions, 67.6 on the draft. Juju, 69.7. Adam Thielen, 70.1. Darnell Mooney for the Bears, 71.8. Rashad Bateman, 76.1. The suspended for 6 games, DeAndre Hopkins, 77.4. Gabe Davis, who's got one of the bigger hype trains going this offseason, pick 79.5. Drake London of the Falcons, 82.3. Hunter Renfrow, 86.3. Devontae Smith, 87.2. And Elijah Moore at pick 90.5. And that's pretty much it. So any of those really stand out as good targets. I think we're both probably going to agree that the hype train on Gabe Davis might draw his draft pick up a little bit further before we get to our drafts.
A little bit.
It's one of those things. He has massive potential, but they still have Dawson Knox. They still have Stephon Diggs. The ball's only going to go so many places. And Buffalo's going to blow some teams out. So they might hand the ball to Devin Singletary, hand the ball to, Cook, and just let the game finish out at some point too.
Probably name that would jump up at me. I think Mr. Renfrow.
Renfro's interesting because obviously you have Waller and you have Devontae Adams, but Renfrow around the goal line just seems to be someone that can get open. I think he's going to take some touchdown upside away from Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams will be fine, but I think he's going to take some touchdowns away from Waller and Adams this year that might make Renfrow a lot more valuable than people are realizing. For me, I'm real high on Justin Jefferson if I can get him. If I don't get him, I'm perfectly fine and excited to get Adam Thielen in the late 7th round, early 8th round, where he's going right now. Adam Thielen is a touchdown machine. Yes, he's had a little bit of injury concern, and people are blowing it out of proportion because last year he missed 3 games. The year before that, he missed 1 game. He missed 6 in 2019. Sure, that's fine, but he hadn't missed a game prior to 2019, and he's also been in the league for 8 full seasons. He's got 3 top 10 finishes, including one in 2020 where he missed 1 game. So I think he's got a lot of upside. He's been getting a lot of good buzz. I think he's one of those guys, if you get him as your wide receiver 3, again, we're talking 7th, 8th, maybe in the 9th round, depending on how your league's formatted. I think he can do a lot worse than Adam Thielen in the 8th or 9th round, 7th, 8th, or 9th round. All right. So now we're just going to open up anybody off the board that we haven't talked about. So we're locking Treylon Burks at 95.1 through the rest of the receivers. Anybody else really standing out to you?
I know it's kind of crazy, but somebody that I'm going to probably actually target, Mr. Juju.
Well, Juju, yep, that's he was in that last group, but he's got a lot of upside. I think we can talk about MVS for the Chiefs in this category as someone with a lot of upside. Sky Moore, the rookie for the Chiefs, somebody's going to be the number 1 there. We don't really know. I know a couple nights ago we talked about Allen Lazard. That was on my my list. He would have been my all-in player had Dameon Pierce not started stealing the show. Someone's got to be the number 1 in Green Bay as well. He's going right now right around pick 100, 99.8. He's actually gone up about 1 pick over the weekend. So I think he's one of those guys I'm really looking forward to. So for me, I think Allen Lazard, I'm not going to say he's my sleeper. He's going just a little bit too early for that. Anybody you would consider a sleeper, that's going to be pick, like I said, 95 to the end of the draft.
Really popping up, and that's a dartboard anyway. When you're getting to that point, it's just like throw something up there and hope it sticks.
All right, I'll name a few names here that I think could be sleepers. Not someone. This is not a guarantee. Kadarius Toney for the Giants showed a lot of Tyreek Hill potential last year. If he can get loose, he can get a lot of points. I like George Pickens. I don't think this is going to be his season, but George Pickens in the future, keep that name in mind. Michael Gallup also coming off an injury. If he gets back and healthy, he's going to be good. But for me, the number 1 sleeper, Sorry, I got one more before I get to my number one. Julio Jones, also pick 142.6. If he comes back to any level of Julio Jonesness of the past, especially with Chris Godwin not being 100%, you could be getting the number one receiver for the Bucks, which we've already talked about how good Mike Evans is. That could be an absolute steal. But sleeper of the draft for me, for the Packers, Romeo Doubs. He was rookie 4th-round pick this year behind Christian Watson, who also went to the Packers, but he has been lighting up camp, had a touchdown in the last preseason game. He's been turning a lot of heads, had a lot of receiving records at Nevada. He's going to be a pretty good player, I think. And we don't know where that ball is going to go for Green Bay yet, outside of Alan Lazard, really. So he's got a lot of upside. Let's talk bust. Do you have a name or two on the bust list?
Oh, from before, got to bring him back up just because of all of the bad mojo from seasons past. DJ Moore.
Yeah, DJ Moore is going to be tough. I think Deontay Johnson, again, going at pick 41.9. I think Deontay Johnson is going to take a step back with Mitch Trubisky. He was good with Ben Roethlisberger because Ben Roethlisberger would dump the ball immediately. And it was usually to Deontay Johnson because he got that ability to get open at the offensive line. Another bust. I hate to pick on the Bears, but Darnell Mooney, I just don't see it happening this year. Justin Fields, I don't have a lot of confidence in. And if we go closer to the top, I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb is a surefire bust candidate, in my opinion, because he's going as the wide receiver 6. He's going at number 16 overall. That's too high for a guy whose best wide receiver only finish is number 19. And I don't think he's even missed a game yet. So, yeah, he's played all but one game in 2 years. Best finish in PPR is wide receiver 19. I think that's too high to be drafting him as the wide receiver 6 and in the top 20 picks overall. All right, so that is the quick condensed version of wide receivers and tight ends. Hopefully we covered enough people, help you guys out there, because drafts are starting. Drafts have already happened. Like I said, I'm already 2 drafts in. I know we've got our 2 later this week. Still waiting on confirmation of the new arrival in the 16-teamer, but we'll get that filled by the time the season actually comes around. So, Joel, let's go to final thoughts, and we will start with you.
Oh, well, just my final thought is that, hey, I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded and all ready for the draft, and let's bring it on. That's pretty much my very short final thought.
Yeah, Joel wants this trophy right here, but he came close last year. My final thought is Tom Brady coming back to practice today. Joel, I'm sure you saw this, that he was back at practice. Did you see the rumor of why he's missing practice?
That he was hinted to be the Masked Singer.
Yeah, he was going to be on season 8 of the
Yes.
Masked Singer. I do watch the show. I will not be surprised if it's something he did. The conspiracy theory goes, well, Tom Brady, he has an agreement in place to do the color analyst for Fox once he's done with his playing career. It's a massive contract. He did retire, and Fox came to him while he was retired and said, hey, you want to do the Masked Singer before the season starts? And he's like, sure, I'll do that. And then he unretires. And they're filming now. So the rumor or the conspiracy theory is that he left for personal reasons, and it was actually a contractual obligation with Fox. I haven't seen any of the costumes for this season. If there's a goat, it would be really bad. I think if he's going to do it, he's going to be a little more subtle than that. But I really hope that he's not on the Masked Singer, just because I can't imagine Tom Brady can sing, and Gronk was on there, and it made me want to shoot my brain out because he was terrible. But he got top 9.
You had some interesting people be on there, including Rudy.
Rudy Giuliani last year. That caused some issues, but that is the rumor. So if you have any interest, the Masked Singer is on Fox Wednesdays, I believe 8 p.m. coming up late next month. And you can guess along with America to see if Tom Brady's under one of the masks, because frankly, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. Like, it makes sense. And the The other theory is that his mother got really sick, and I'd rather think he was off singing in some giant animal costume than dealing with real world problems with his family. So hopefully for him and the Brady family, it is he went and got a suit on, started singing and dancing on stage like a crazy person, and it's not anything a little less seemly.
Because you never want to wish that on anybody.
No, I can't stand Tom Brady for all the torture he's done to my Dolphins, but that's a step too far. Anyways, that's our time for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be doing quarterbacks and running backs, and then Wednesday, 10-team mock draft, a couple of them, and then we'll get ready for the real thing on Thursday and Friday, the 10 and then the 16 on Friday, not back to back for the first time in forever.
Thank God.
So. Only a few more days. The board behind me is clear because, well, we're on to a new season. I've officially
Only a
registered.
few more days until we'll find out who will be tied forever, who are destinies for fantasy for the upcoming season. The wheel of fate, where will it land for us?
Yeah, and the Mega Bowl 2022 has been registered for. Draft is coming up after Labor Day. So, yes, all that and much, much more. Fantasy football, less than a few days for drafts, and
when you have the Michael Buffalo, let's get ready to rumble.
The first game of the season is 17 days away. So it's coming, folks. It will be here before you know it.
Do they have the countdown until Deshaun Watson returns started yet?
I'm sure somebody does, and I gotta be honest, I want to go to that Texans-Browns game. That's a sentence I never thought I would say, but I want to go to that game so bad.
I wish that we could do. Remember, like the old 24 series that have that sound effect with a ticking clock with the number of seconds until Watson returns. You can have the following takes place. Events are in real time.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. December 4th, again, Browns at Texans, first game back from all of it for the last 2 years for Deshaun Watson. I want to go to that game so bad.
No drama or hype at all. Not.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe if I can find people to go with, I might go to that game just to hear. I want to hear the hate. That's it. I want to hear the hate. I don't think it's going to come through on the TV as well. So, anyways, that's our time. I'm flying Ryan Gilchrist along with
Tampa Motormouth, Joel Verlin.
And we will see you tomorrow again. Wide receiver, tight ends done. We move on to quarterbacks, running backs tomorrow. If you're waiting for the kicker and defense show, not going to happen.